Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Saturday, February the 22nd. We're going to cover Saturday's 6-game slate, go position by position, talk about the plays that stand out to me the most, what I'm liking on this slate, just looking the night before. These are my early thoughts. I am recording this video on Friday night. If you guys do want to get access to my updated content, I won't have an article for Saturday. I usually just post my articles Monday through Friday over on Patreon, but I will have some updated core plays after we get some injury news. There are some teams on a back-to-back, so there could definitely be some guys sitting today that could impact the slate. I will have updated core plays posted on Patreon about an hour or two before lock. If you guys do want to get access to that, access to all my Patreon content, you can check that out, link down below in the description. Also, link down below is my Twitter account, so if you want to give me a follow there, I would greatly appreciate it, at DFS by Noah. But before we get started, guys, drop a like on the video. As always, I appreciate that as well. Hit the subscribe button, click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You'll never miss out on any of my new videos. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at Saturday's 6-game slate. So at the top of the point guard position, we'll start off here. James Harden, our most expensive point guard on the slate, $10,900. He's the second most expensive player on the slate overall, right behind Giannis. Giannis 11.2, Harden is 10.9. So Harden, I don't really like here against the Jazz, especially when you look at the position. You have Trae Young for cheaper, who I'd definitely like. I don't like Young over Harden. I think I'd rather play Harden over Young, but Luka Doncic's the guy that really stands out. I mean, Luka's only 10-2 against the Hawks, so we'll talk about him in a second. I just can't play Harden over a guy like Luka Doncic. I know Harden's price tags come way down. I mean, the price tag's very appealing. The matchup isn't great. The Jazz are a pretty good defensive team. They play at a pretty slow pace. But you know what you're getting out of James Harden. You're getting monster minutes, probably 36 to 38 minutes if it's a close game. These teams just played a couple days ago or about a week ago, and Harden, 39 minutes, 66 Draftkings points. I expect he probably puts up a similar line to that, probably like 36 minutes and 60 DK points, I would have to say is like a projection for him. So at 10-9, I do like him. I just prefer Luka Doncic, and I think Luka gives you more upside. It's hard for me to not like Luka at his DraftKings price. I mean, he's down to 10,200 on DK. He was priced, I believe, at 10,600 on Friday night slate. I did have some interest in Luka on Friday night slate. I just thought he was too cheap. Now he's even cheaper, and the matchup is way better. Friday night against Orlando, he played 34 minutes. That was a tough matchup. He still scored 62 DraftKings points. Now he's in a smash spot today against the Hawks. One of the worst defensive teams in the league. We all know this. They are 28th in defensive rating, so it's third to last. In terms of pace, we know this Hawks team plays at a fast pace as well. They are 6th in pace this season. This is a smash spot for Luka Doncic. Love him here. One of my favorite plays on the slate. I do expect him to be very popular, but at his DraftKings salary, he's really hard for me to get away from. If he was like 11.5, 12K like he should be, then it would be a different story, but getting him at this price makes him a core play for me. Looking over to Yahoo, looking at their pricing, Luka's much more reasonably priced over there. He's actually the most expensive player on the slate at $56, but I still like him a ton on Yahoo. I just think the matchup is so good. Luka's definitely a guy I'm going to be looking to build around tonight. One of my favorite plays. Really just hard not to like him in this matchup, and this is a back-to-back for Dallas. We will talk about Porzingis when we get to like power forward and center. Porzingis has been sitting on back-to-backs as of late. You guys know this, but when you take Porzingis off the floor, Luka Doncic has insane numbers. Even playing alongside Porzingis, his numbers are still really good. But we'll take a look at his numbers without Porzingis. I honestly think that Porzingis is he's gonna rest. I'm going into this slate assuming he's out, just because the last 4 or 5 back-to-backs they've been in, he has not played in any of them. And you look at Luka's numbers this season with Porzingis off the floor. 39% usage rate, 1.76 fantasy points per minute, 45% assist percentage. Pretty big bumps in his numbers overall. Sees a 2% bump in usage, a little bit of a bump in his fantasy point per minute average. So really like Luka today. I'll like him even more if Porzingis is out, which I think is very likely to happen. So just locking in Luka, best point guard play on the slate, and I don't think it's really that close. He's the guy I like the most by far. But then other options, Russell Westbrook, Ben Simmons, I don't have a ton of interest in today. They're just so closely priced to Luka. I would just much rather play Luka over those two guys. Jimmy Butler's in a good matchup against Cleveland, so I did want to mention him, but tough to consider him a core play when he's 8,200. I just feel like point guard's a position. If I'm not going to like this 6K, 5K range, I'm probably just paying up for Luka. So if we do look to this like 6K, 7K range, the mid-range here, I think Spencer Dinwiddie still remains a good option while Kyrie Irving is out. Just getting monster minutes, playing 35, 36 minutes, getting a lot of usage. Been very productive the last 4 games with Kyrie out. 49, 47, 39, 41 DraftKings points. Pretty much giving you like a 35 to 40 point floor right now. Although this is a Charlotte team that plays really slow, they're also a Charlotte team that is very bad defensively. In terms of defensive rating, they do rank 26th in defensive rating. And this is a spot that Dinwiddie's had a lot of success in. Through 3 games against the Hornets, he's averaged 40 DraftKings points per game against them. I think some of those games are with Kyrie. I can take a look at that real quick. Kyrie has played in... he's actually not played in any of those. So you got 3 games this season with Dinwiddie playing the Hornets without Kyrie, and he's averaged 40 DK points through those 3 games. So pretty solid numbers overall. I think I do prefer him over guys like Donovan Mitchell, Devontae Graham. I do prefer Dinwiddie over those 2 guys. Karis LeVert as well, same thing can be said. When you take Kyrie off the floor, Dinwiddie, LeVert, both of them have over 30% usage rates. Both of them average over a fantasy point per minute. So if I'm targeting people from Brooklyn today, if I'm targeting guys from Brooklyn, it's definitely going to start with those 2 guys. But then getting down to the 6K, 5K range, I think Terry Rozier really stands out at his DraftKings salary. I know he's been bad lately. The game log is not pretty. Just the last 3 games, four of his last 5 games, he's been under 30 DraftKings points. So the game log isn't pretty, but the price tag has come way down on Terry Rozier to $5,300. This is a really good spot against Brooklyn. Brooklyn defensively versus guards, not the best defensive team. In terms of pace, they do play at somewhat of a fast pace. They are 10th in pace this season. The Hornets, we know they're a slow pace team. They're dead last in pace. So anytime the Hornets are playing a team like middle of the pack or above in pace, it's going to be a pace-up spot for them, and that's the case today. So I actually have a good amount of interest in Terry Rozier at his DK salary. I think he really stands out at only $5,300. This is still a guy that most nights is going to play 34 to 36 minutes. Most nights he's going to give you about a fantasy point per minute. He's got upside for way more, though. We've seen Terry Rozier go for 40, 45 DK points, 46 DK points against the Knicks. I know it's not pretty as of late, but 37 against Washington. He's still got 35, 40 point potential. If he was like 6K, 6,500, I really wouldn't have any interest in him. But this price tag makes Terry Rozier a very appealing option. I think he's kind of like a DK only play for me. If we look at Yahoo, look at their pricing, you could play Rozier. He's $22. He's pretty cheap over there as well. I just think the $5,300 salary on DK is where I have the most interest in Terry Rozier. I like him quite a bit at that price. Mike Conley, he's expected back today. He, for some reason, he rested on Friday. I'm not really sure why he did. I guess with it being a front end of a back-to-back, he was going to sit out one of the 2 games. Chose to sit out Friday night's game against the Spurs. So he's going to play Saturday against the Rockets. It is a really good matchup. Conley's been really good as of late, getting the minutes, 30-plus minutes in 4 straight games. When these teams just played a couple weeks ago, he had 35 DraftKings points in 34 minutes against Houston. He's been really good as of late. The price tag's still really cheap. It's a big-time pace-up spot here for the Jazz, facing a Rockets team that is playing at the second fastest pace in the league. I think Conley maybe is a little bit safer than Terry Rozier, so if you want to go to him, I'm fine with that. I still like Terry Rozier, though, especially if he's going to come in at low ownership. But I have no problems with Conley for 100 less. I think Conley also stands out as a really good guard option in that 5K range. But then for value, I think Tomas Satoransky, only $4,900 on DraftKings, totally in play. With Chandler Hutchison out for the Bulls, we know Chris Dunn's still going to be out. Denzel Valentine's still going to be out. There's just a lot of injuries for the Bulls right now. Otto Porter is still expected to be out. That's going to secure Tomas Satoransky's minutes. Last just couple of games, he's played 30-plus minutes in 3 straight games. Been productive as well, been consistent, giving you 28, 33, and 33 DK points in those 3 games. This is a good matchup against the Suns. He's still very cheap at $4,900. So as a value option, I like Tomas Satoransky, his cheap price tag. But I think that's probably it for point guard value plays. I don't think there's really any punt options here. Even with Chandler Hutchison out last game, it was kind of surprising. Shaq Harrison came off the bench. They started Ryan Arcidiacono in that game. I'm assuming Arcidiacono gets to start again, which makes me really not interested in Shaq Harrison. He only played 18 minutes. He was productive, put up a fantasy point per minute, had 18 DraftKings points. If he would get 25, even 26, 28 minutes, somewhere in that range, I would have some interest in him at only $3,500. But I can't really play him if he's only getting 15 to 20 minutes. That's just not enough time. He needs to play more, and with Arcidiacono starting, I just don't think Harrison's going to get the minutes. Now, if we get some word Saturday that Harrison's going to start ahead of Arcidiacono, obviously that'll change things. But for right now, I'm assuming he continues to come off the bench, which really doesn't make me interested in him. So I think we really covered everything here in terms of value. I think if I'm paying down at point guard, if I'm going for a cheap option, I like Satoransky quite a bit at 4,900 as a value play. But let's go ahead and talk about the shooting guard position now. So looking at plays here, you got Zach LaVine, 8,900 against the Suns. A fine option, just don't think I really get to him on today's slate. If I'm going to pay up for like a guard, it's going to be Luka. I'd rather get to Trae Young over LaVine. I'd try and get up to Westbrook if possible. I'd rather save salary, like save almost $2,000 or $1,000 and play Spencer Dinwiddie. So I don't really see myself getting to LaVine at 8,900. Talked about Butler earlier. Talked about Dinwiddie, who I have some interest in. Really not much in the mid-range at shooting guard that I haven't already talked about. Like, nothing really stands out here. Terry Rozier, you can play at shooting guard. Seth Curry actually got the start Friday night against Orlando. Only played 28 minutes, only had 16 DK points. Even if he's starting again, it's just hard to predict what his minutes are going to be like, so don't have a ton of interest in Seth Curry. Joe Ingles was a guy I had a little bit of interest in Friday night with Conley out, but now that Conley's back, don't really want to go to Joe Ingles. I liked Josh Richardson on the last slate. He's still cheap today. Ben Simmons is expected to be back, but I think you can still play Josh Richardson. Got 39 minutes in that game against Brooklyn. It was an overtime game, but even at the end of regulation, he had played like 34 minutes. So it seems like Josh Richardson is back to playing 32 to 34 minutes a night. Most nights he's going to give you probably 25, close to 30 DK points. It's a fast-paced game against the Bucks. At 4,400, I think Josh Richardson is totally in play today. Had a good game against the Bucks earlier this season, 35 DK points in 36 minutes. So I do like him quite a bit as a shooting guard value option. You also have Cam Reddish, who we'll talk about, 4,100 on DK. We do already know that DeAndre Hunter is going to be out for the Hawks, which should solidify Cam Reddish for somewhat big minutes. Played 37 minutes last game against Miami, and I believe DeAndre Hunter played in that game, if I'm not mistaken. I can check that real quick. Yeah, Hunter played in that game, played 30 minutes, and Reddish still got 37 minutes with Hunter playing. Now with Hunter out, like there's a chance Cam Reddish plays close to 40 minutes today. Obviously, this is a guy like his production. You never are going to feel great about rostering him just because his production can be inconsistent. He can play 35 minutes and score 15 Draftkings points, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. But this is a pretty good game to target against Dallas. This Dallas-Atlanta game just overall is going to be a good game to target. Right now, it does have the highest total on the slate at 239. Two pretty fast-paced teams. We know the Hawks play fast. They're 6th in pace. Dallas, not as fast. I mean, they're towards the middle of the pack. They rank 19th in pace. But at 4,100, if we're going to get like 35 to 40 minutes again from Cam Reddish, he is totally in play as a value option. Between him and Josh Richardson, I think I feel a little bit safer with Josh Richardson, but both guys I like as value options. I think Cam Reddish really stands out over on Yahoo. He's very cheap over there. He's only $11 at a very weak small forward position. Small forward's always like a tough position on Yahoo. There's just never any appealing plays. I think if I'm paying up, I like Karis LeVert the most at 26, but other than him, like, I don't really like any of these mid-range options. Maybe THJ you could play if Porzingis winds up out, but even with Luka healthy, I still don't really like THJ. So yeah, I think Cam Reddish at $11 makes a lot of sense as a value option over on Yahoo. I think the minutes should be there. Seems locked into the big minutes, and with DeAndre Hunter out, that should just solidify his minutes even more. I think there's also some other injuries. DeAndre Bembry's also out, but he really hasn't been getting minutes anyway. I think with Hunter out, though, that's really should solidify Cam Reddish for big minutes if I had to say, or if I had to guess. So I like him as a value, but I think we covered everything for shooting guard, for cheap options here. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about some small forwards now. So looking at this position, looking for guys I haven't already talked about. I was pretty high on Tobias Harris on the last slate. I was just high on Philly in general. Once we got the news Ben Simmons was out, I felt like Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, Josh Richardson, all three of those guys became core plays. With them fully healthy today, with Ben Simmons expected back, you don't have to play these guys, but still, 6,800, there's plenty of upside for Tobias Harris at this salary. He's been pretty good in this matchup. He's averaged 38 DK points, close to 39 DK points through 2 games against Milwaukee. We know that Milwaukee plays at a fast pace. Right now, this game does have a 226 total, which is towards the top of the slate. You got 239 in Dallas, Atlanta, 235 in Houston and Utah, and then right now, of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 5 games we have a total for, this one does have the third highest total. So I like getting some exposure to this game. I think with the pace-up spot for Philly, getting to face Milwaukee, who plays at a fast pace, that's just going to allow them to get more possessions, more shot opportunities. Milwaukee has allowed a lot of three-pointers this season, a lot of three-point attempts just because of how fast they play. So it is a matchup that sets up well for Tobias Harris. We know he's going to play monster minutes if the game's competitive. With Al Horford now coming off the bench, that does help Tobias Harris quite a bit. Tobias Harris getting to start at power forward helps his rebounding numbers, and we've seen that just the last 2 games. Getting a double-double the last 2 games with Al Horford off the bench, and it seems like that's going to be a permanent move. So I actually like Tobias Harris quite a bit at small forward. I think if I'm going to like any of these guys, he's the one that stands out to me the most. I think I do slightly prefer him over Karis LeVert, but both those guys are the guys I like most at this position. Looking over to Yahoo, Tobias Harris is $30 over there. Pretty expensive, but I still think he's in play, not out of play at all. But let's take a look at some other small forwards now. Really not much that stands out in this mid-range. Like Robert Covington was really popular on the last slate. He's up to 5,900 today. I don't have a ton of interest in Covington in a tough matchup against the Jazz, especially with this price tag coming up. I'll kind of let other people chase that. Jay Crowder started last game against the Hawks, but was kind of disappointing. Put up 25 DK points, only played 23 minutes though. He did foul out in 23 minutes, so he could have had a much better line. This is a really good matchup against Cleveland. We know how bad Cleveland is defensively. I still have a little bit of interest in Jay Crowder. I expect he plays probably 30 to 32 minutes most nights as long as he's not in foul trouble. So at 4,800, totally in play as a value option. Cam Reddish you can play here. He's small forward eligible. He's 4,100. I talked about him, how I like him as a value play. But I think that's probably it for cheap options. I guess we could talk about Ryan Arcidiacono. So he's still very cheap on DraftKings. He's the stone minimum. He's 3K. Last game that he started for Chandler Hutchison, he did play 28 minutes, was not productive at all, only had 8 DraftKings points, shot 1 for 6 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3. If he makes maybe 50% of his shots, he probably puts up like 16, 18 DraftKings points. I mean, if you're going to get a guy at minimum salary playing 30 minutes, close to that, he is still in play for me at 3K. Shooting guard and small forward eligible, which makes him pretty appealing. It's a good matchup against the Suns. I do have some interest in Arcidiacono. He's not a core play, I don't think, by any means, especially because we have some better value like at other positions that we'll talk about, but definitely in play. It's hard to just say a guy at 3K that's going to play 30 minutes is out of play at all. I mean, anytime you get a guy at the minimum salary that's going to play minutes like that, that definitely puts them in play for me at least. But we'll go ahead and move on to power forward now. So looking at this position at the top, I really like Giannis today. I love this spot for him against Philly. It's not the best matchup. We know Philly is really good defensively, but I've said this so many times this season. I want to play Giannis when he's going to be in competitive games, and that should be the case today against the Sixers team that should keep this game close. If we look at spreads right now, this game does have an 8.5 point spread, which is pretty close for Milwaukee, given Milwaukee usually blows out everybody they play. We should expect Giannis to get his full minutes, probably play 33 to 35 minutes. Like, his minutes have actually been up as of late, even in blowouts. They beat Detroit by 20, and he still played 32 minutes. They beat Orlando by 16. He still played 34 minutes. Even like against Phoenix, they beat Phoenix by 21. He still played 31 minutes. Like his minutes are not really that limited right now. He's played 30-plus minutes in 9 of his last 10 games. Even if it does blow out, I think Giannis still probably gets close to 30 minutes, but I don't think that's gonna be the case. We should expect Giannis to play 34 minutes, 35 minutes today, and I mean, this dude is just so productive when he gets the minutes. You look at the game log, so pretty, so consistent, 50-plus DraftKings points in 10 straight games, really just as good as it gets. It's a tough matchup, but Giannis is matchup proof. We'll look at his numbers. This is a guy that just averages insane numbers. I think his usage rate's close to 40% this season, averaging almost I think it's like 1.9 fantasy points per minute. We'll take a look at it real quick just so you guys can see. Pull up the Bucks, run the Curie. I think Giannis is definitely going to be like a core play for me on both sides, especially because we do have some value right now. I mean, you got Cam Reddish, who we talked about. There's some cheap guards we mentioned like Satoransky. If you want to take a shot on Arcidiacono at 3K, we're going to talk about some value centers. If Porzingis winds up resting, that's going to open up some value, and I expect Porzingis does wind up resting today. So we should have plenty of value today. If you want to go Giannis, Luka, I really like doing that build. Giannis, we talked about, I mean, the dude's just a monster, averaging close to 1.9 fantasy points per minute, 37% usage rate, 33% assist percentage, 21% total rebound percentage. Dude has triple-double upside, going to give you 50 to 60 DK points most nights. If this game is close, which it should be, Giannis has 70, 80 point upside. So at 11-2, $55 on Yahoo, he's going to be a core play for me today. Really don't see how I get away from Giannis, especially with some of the value that we already have right now. And maybe even more value could open up as the day goes on Saturday. Other power forwards, we talked about Tobias Harris. I like him quite a bit now that he is playing the 4 a lot. In this mid-range, Thaddeus Young, 5,600, I think is totally in play. Finally had a big game last game against Charlotte. Played 36 minutes and had 48 Draftkings points. Since he had been starting for Lauri Markkanen, like his game log wasn't that pretty, wasn't consistent at all. Or I wouldn't say it was consistent, but he was underperforming. I mean, he was giving you like 25 DK points most nights, but obviously at 5,600, you want more than 25 DK points. Finally busted out in a big way last game with 22 and 11, 1 assist, 1 block, 4 steals. With Luke Kornet now doubtful to play for the Bulls, we're going to talk about the Bulls front court. Like, they are going to be very thin. They're already without Wendell Carter Jr. and Lauri Markkanen. They're going to be without Luke Kornet today. So really the only healthy bigs that Chicago has for tonight pretty much are Thaddeus Young, Cristiano Felicio, and Daniel Gafford. Like, those are the only 3 guys that can play the 4 and the 5. I guess they could play, God, I don't even know. I guess they could maybe run some, like Zach LaVine at the 4, maybe play like a 3-guard lineup with like Harrison, Arcidiacono, and Satoransky. Like, maybe they do that a little bit, but I think we're going to see, I think we're going to see Felicio, Gafford, Thaddeus Young. I think we're going to see one of those 3 guys, if not 2 of those 3 guys, on the floor at all times. So Thaddeus Young is definitely in play. The minutes should be there. Feels locked into big minutes. It's a really good matchup against the Suns. The price tag came up a little bit, so he's not a must-play by any means, but I still have quite a bit of interest in him today as a sort of mid-range power forward. In terms of value plays here, though, P.J. Washington finally broke out last game against Chicago. I like him again today at 4,700 against Brooklyn. I think he's totally in play. Cody Zeller had a good game last game against Chicago as well. Only played 25 minutes, but did have 35 DK points. Zeller's been productive when he gets the minutes. This is a really good matchup against Brooklyn. One of the best matchups you can get as a center. Brooklyn, I believe they've allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to centers this season. So if we're going to get like 25 to 28 minutes from Cody Zeller, like he can easily give you 30 DraftKings points in this matchup. So at 4,700, another guy that would be in play as a value option. But I think we do need to talk about Maxi Kleber. So I mentioned it at the beginning of the video. With this being a back-to-back for the Mavericks, given that Porzingis played 34 minutes on Friday night against Orlando, and with how he's been resting on back-to-backs as of late, I am assuming that Porzingis is going to be out today. If that's the case, Maxi Kleber becomes probably one of the best value plays on the slate. Only 3,900 on DraftKings, has power forward and center eligibility, which is very appealing. We'll go ahead and plug him into the forward spot since he has that forward eligibility. On Yahoo, like, he had been center the last few slates, but they moved him back to power forward, which makes him a very appealing option over there as well. He actually had a good game Friday night against Orlando, even with Porzingis healthy. Played 22 minutes off the bench, had 33 fantasy points, 26 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. So that should give him a little bit of confidence heading into Saturday night's game against the Hawks, which obviously this is a great spot for Maxi Kleber. Willie Cauley-Stein did not even play in that game, so it seems like Kleber's locked into big minutes, or not big minutes, but he's locked into good minutes right now behind Porzingis. And with Porzingis, at least in my opinion, most likely not going to play today. That should solidify Kleber's minutes, so I like him a lot as a value option. If Porzingis winds up playing, then obviously we'll look to get off of Maxi Kleber, but for now, I'm going to assume he's out. If I need to make changes, I will post some updated core plays over on Patreon about an hour or 2 before lock. We should get an update on Porzingis' status sometime in the afternoon once they release their injury report. But yeah, guys, that's kind of what I like for power forward. If Porzingis is out, I think Kleber is the top value here, and it's really not even close. I am assuming that he gets the start at center, which obviously in a great matchup against the Hawks would make him a top value. But let's go ahead and run through center real quick just before we end the video. So at the top here, you have Joel Embiid for 9,400 against the Bucks. We know the Bucks a good defensive team, but as I discussed earlier, this is a team that does play at a very fast pace. They do lead the league in pace this season, so it's actually kind of a good thing when you play the Bucks, getting to play up in pace, getting more possessions, more shot opportunities. This is a matchup that Joel Embiid has had some success in this season, averaging 50 DraftKings points through 2 games against Milwaukee. And looking back in the past, previous seasons, Embiid has actually had a lot of success against Milwaukee in the past as well. I mean, this is a guy that's going to put up probably 50 to 55, or I wouldn't say 50, but 45 to 50 DK points most nights. Benefited big time last game with Ben Simmons out. Played 41 minutes in that overtime game against Brooklyn. Had 69 DraftKings points. Embiid was one of the top owned plays on that slate for good reason. I don't think he's going to be nearly as popular today, so I do have quite a bit of interest in him in tournaments. I think if I'm starting my lineup, though, with 2 studs, I'm probably looking to start with Luka and Giannis. And it's pretty tough to get Luka, Giannis, and Embiid. I don't think you're going to be able to make that work. But if you are playing multiple lineups today, especially if you want to do like a Giannis, Embiid kind of mini game stack, I'm totally cool with that. I would say Embiid's my 3rd favorite stud today behind Luka and Giannis. But right now, these are the 2 guys I really want to try and build around if possible. DeAndre Ayton's in a great matchup against the Bulls, but we don't know what his minutes are going to be like. He did play 36 minutes Friday night against the Raptors. This is a back-to-back. I mean, if we're going to get 36 minutes from DeAndre Ayton, like he is totally in play today, especially with the matchup being so good. We know how bad this Bulls front court is defensively, but he's $8,700. He's really expensive. I think I'd rather try and find $700 and get up to Joel Embiid. I'd rather save a little bit of salary and play Bam Adebayo for $100 less in a really good matchup against the Cavs. So even in a good spot, I probably won't get to DeAndre Ayton today. Like I discussed earlier, I think Kristaps Porzingis rest today. Hasn't played like in back-to-backs as of late. They've had, I think, he's played in 2 back-to-backs this season, and that was kind of like at the beginning of the season. We saw, I think it was their most recent back-to-back, if I'm not mistaken. They played Charlotte on one night, and then, or it was the front end of a back-to-back, and they played Charlotte. And Porzingis was dealing with some foul trouble in that game. I can pull it up in the game log real quick. Let's see if I can find it in here. I thought it was pretty recently, but maybe I'm mistaken. I know they played Charlotte, and he had like 20 minutes. It was the front end of a back-to-back. Let's see. Dang, I can't even find it. Well, maybe I'm mistaken, but I thought he had like a really good matchup one night. Or maybe it was this game against Washington. And yeah, I think it was this day against Washington. Like they were on the front end of a back-to-back, and then they were going to play Charlotte on the next day. It was on the front end of a back-to-back. He only played 21 minutes, but he still wound up resting that game. He didn't play February 8th when they had a game, so like he's been resting on back-to-backs this season, or as of late, and most of the season he's been resting on back-to-backs. He played 34 minutes Friday night. This is really what's just going to change the slate. I mean, if Porzingis is out, everything changes. There's going to be so much value from Dallas with the bigs, with guys like Maxi Kleber, obviously. Obviously, Luka will get more usage. THJ will get more opportunity. But definitely Maxi would be the guy I would target there, assuming he gets the start. If Porzingis does play, I mean, against the Hawks for 8K, like he would be in play. I assume he's out, though. So if I need to make changes, like I said earlier, guys, I'll post my updated core plays over on Patreon later in the afternoon, most likely about an hour or 2 before lock. If you do want to get access to those, you can check out the Patreon link down below in the description. But DeAndre Jordan, someone we need to mention. He's been playing very well as of late. Even coming off the bench, he has been getting a ton of minutes. We saw him come off the bench last game against Philly, but started the second half ahead of Jarrett Allen. I think Jarrett Allen only played like 15 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. Allen played 13 minutes in that game, was just really struggling, only had 1 fantasy point. We don't know what this is going to look like. The Brooklyn front court, their center minutes, what they're going to look like. But right now, it's been DeAndre Jordan getting most of the run off the bench, and I wouldn't be surprised if he eventually winds up starting ahead of Jarrett Allen. If we do get DeAndre Jordan starting today against the Hornets, he would totally be in play at only 5,500. This is a guy that has been a very productive player when he gets the minutes. I mean, he legit has 40, 45 point upside. If they will give him 28 to 30 minutes, he can pretty much double-double. If he plays 30 minutes, he's pretty much a lock for a double-double. We know how good this matchup is. Even in limited time this season, he's only averaged 22 minutes per game against Charlotte, but he still averaged 31 DK points in those games. I wouldn't be surprised if DeAndre Jordan plays 24 minutes and scores 35 fantasy points. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts, plays 32 minutes and scores 45 DK points. So Keep an eye on that starting lineup. If he does wind up starting, I'm going to love DeAndre Jordan in this matchup, and he would definitely become a very strong option. Even with the price tag coming up, I still like him quite a bit at 5,500. Jared Allen, though, it's tough to trust him right now. I mean, he's down to 4,300 on DraftKings. If you want to take a shot on him, I'm fine with that. It's such a good matchup. Even if he gets limited to like 22 minutes, like Allen could still put up 30 DraftKings points in 22 minutes against this Hornets team. I mean, he's played 3 games against them, and through those 3 games, he's averaged almost over 40 DraftKings points against the Hornets. So I actually like Jared Allen quite a bit in tournaments. Just keep an eye on that Brooklyn starting lineup. I would not be surprised if DeAndre Jordan winds up starting over Jared Allen today. If they do start Allen again, like I think at 4,300, he's a guy you can take a shot on in this really good matchup against the Hornets. But there are some value plays we need to talk about at center. We touched on Jared Allen, but I think the guys or the team we need to talk about is Chicago. So I mentioned it earlier. We already know that Wendell Carter Jr., Lauri Markkanen, those guys are going to remain out. In the like forwards, or Hudson, Porter, Denzel Valentine, Chris Dunn, those guys are going to be out as well. We also know that Luke Kornet's going to be out today. So that is 7 bodies that the Bulls are going to be missing for this game. And mentioned it earlier when I talked about Thaddeus Young. Really the only bigs they have that they can play are Thaddeus Young, Cristiano Felicio, and Daniel Gafford. I assume one of Gafford or Felicio starts at center. I wouldn't be surprised if Thaddeus Young starts at center, but I'm assuming it's one of these 2 guys that gets a start. If that's the case, both of them are 3K. I'm assuming it's going to be Gafford that starts, so at minimum salary 3K, if he starts, I have to assume he plays probably 25 to 28 minutes, somewhere in that range. If Felicio gets like the backup center minutes, probably plays like 20 to 22. But we could maybe see these guys play alongside each other, given that the Bulls are just so thin right now in the front court. They really don't have any other power forwards they can play. So we could see some lineups where they play Thaddeus Young and Felicio alongside each other. We could see some lineups where they play Young and Gafford alongside each other. We could see some lineups where Felicio and Gafford play on the court at the same time. Keep an eye on the Bulls starting lineup. It's an 8 o'clock game, so I'm not sure if we'll get that before lock, but it doesn't really matter. Both guys are the same, like they're the same salary. On Yahoo, Gafford's $10, Felicio is $10. They're both center, so if Gafford winds up starting, you could just play Gafford. If you have Gafford in your lineup and Felicio winds up starting, you can just global swap to Felicio. But like I said, I'm assuming Gafford gets the start. Whichever guy starts, I feel plays the more minutes, plays the most amount of minutes, so that's going to be the guy that I prefer. And with me assuming that's Gafford, he's the guy that I like the most. I mean, 3K, the stone minimum. It's really hard for him to fail at this salary, especially against Phoenix, a team that has not been good defensively versus bigs. DeAndre Ayton's been improving on the defensive end, but not an elite defender by any means. And with Ayton being on the floor for like 36, 38 minutes, they're going to need a big out there to defend him. And obviously that's where Gafford and Felicio both come into play. So keep an eye on that Bulls starting lineup. That's one of the big kind of the keys to watch today. Felicio, he got 24 minutes last game against Charlotte, had 12 DK points. Gafford got 16 minutes, and then Luke Kornet got 15 minutes before he wound up getting hurt. So you take those 15 minutes away from Kornet, I'd say Gafford probably gets like 20 minutes, and Felicio probably gets like 26 or something like that. But, I mean, I could see a situation where they play like Thaddeus Young close to 40 minutes because they just have no other bodies, and you see Gafford and Felicio both get like close to 30 minutes because they really have no other bigs they can turn to. Like, I don't know if they've been playing. Let's see who they've been playing or who they have at forward. So, yeah, like Ryan Arcidiacono could maybe. I mean, he's not big at all. Like, I don't see him playing the 4. Otto Porter, like Draftkings has him listed as questionable, but he's already been ruled out, so he's not expected to play. So he's going to be out. At center, they have Felicio and Gafford, and that's really it. Like, Carter's going to be out. Kornet's going to be out. At power forward, Markkanen's going to be out. Hudson's going to be out. Porter's going to be out. They have, I think they have like Adam Monka, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he's a guard, so he can't play the 4. I wouldn't be surprised if they wind up calling up somebody, but who knows here? They're really thin in the front court right now. They're going to provide us with some value, given that they have guys that are going to play probably 30 minutes that are 3K in a good matchup. Really hard to get away from them. So really like the Bulls as a team, specifically the front court. I think the front court just presents us with so much value today. But yeah, guys, I think we covered everything for this 6-game slate. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you stuck all the way through the end, I appreciate you watching the whole video. It does really mean a lot to me. I know these videos can get pretty long, but I said it earlier in my video on Friday. I want to try and give you guys as much information, as much analysis as I can. make these videos as enjoyable to watch as possible. But best of luck tonight, guys. Appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed, hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. Click that notification bell as well, so that way you do get notified every time I do upload. Also, if you want to, you can check out my Twitter link down below at DFS by Noah if you want to give me a follow there. I would appreciate it. You can also check out my Patreon link down below, patreon.com/DFS by Noah. Have some updated content over there. I'll have my updated core plays posted about an hour or two before lock. So if you do want to get access to all that, you can check out the Patreon link down below. But best of luck tonight, guys. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed, and should be back for Sunday. Most likely we'll have a video up for Sunday. So till then, guys, see you later. Peace.